My name is Dr. Colin Foley. I'm chair of this particular program. You're very welcome to this afternoon session to really introduce the course to you and let you know what you've got in store if you do decide to participate. Last year was the first year that we initiated this particular course, but we have been teaching operations management, supply chain management for many years, particularly online. There's a tradition in DCU of teaching online stretching back for almost 30 years, and I've been involved in it for more than 20 of them. So you're very welcome. As I said at the outset, we are recording this particular session. You can either take the mic and ask a question as we go along, or you can write in the chat box. But we will have time for questions at the end, and these particular slides will be sent out to all of your emails when we've completed the recording. What we're going to do in the course of this particular recording, I'm going to introduce the course with key facts, the entry requirements, the modules you'll be studying, what is involved in studying online, the method of assessment and qualification that you get from this particular course, and any questions that you've got. We are joined by two of our colleagues who have completed the course this year, and they'll kind of give you the warts and all version of how they got on and what they found going through this particular course in the last 12 months. So my name is, as I said, Dr. Colin Foley. Previously, I've been Director of Postgraduate Distance Learning Programs at DCU. I've over 20 years practical management experience in managing change, supply chain management, logistics, project management, customer services, and everything but the kitchen sink. I have a doctorate from DCU, a Master's of Science degree in Management of Operations, and a Bachelor of Commerce from Cork. So you may pick up the strains of a Cork accent buried in there somewhere. My research interests include humanitarian operations, managing change, online learning, project management, and sustainability. I was formerly coordinator of DCU University of Sanctuary Scholarships, and I'm currently International Mobility Coordinator with DCU Business School as well. This particular course is a one-year Level 9 graduate certificate. It's delivered 75% online, offering increased flexibility to you. The weekly classes are on Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 9, and those are recorded and uploaded on our virtual learning environment Loop, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. It is also 25% campus-based with our partners, Drogheda Institute of Further Education, and that involves in-person workshops, group projects, and networking events held in Drogheda Institute of Further Education's premises in Drogheda. Those happen 5 times a year, typically on a Friday exclusively on a Friday between 10 and 3. There are 3 classes before Christmas and 2 classes after Christmas. The program fees for this particular course are funded by the Government of Ireland through the Springboard Plus initiative. So if you are unemployed, you don't have to pay anything. If you are employed, either yourself or your employer will have to pay 10% of the cost of this particular course, which amounts to currently €500. You apply through the Springboard website. Some things to be careful of. It's a good idea to include a submission stating why you want to do this course. What are you expecting to get out of it? One of the things that DCU insists upon is your academic transcripts. Now, these aren't the parchments. These are a listing of how you performed in each of the modules that you undertook on your undergraduate program in each of the years. Your application won't be processed until those are received. It'll be stalled. So to get that in at the start is really important. It's a good idea to put in a CV detailing your work employment to date. Um, and really, that's the other requirement is if English isn't your first language, DCU also have specific requirements in terms of your English language fluency. So the actual entry requirements are 2-1 in a cognitive degree. So that's typically business, maths, engineering. We do accept some applicants with the 2-2 honours degree. That depends on demand and the relevance of the applicant's work experience. In some cases, we accept people with substantial relevant managerial work experience in common with DCU's recognition of prior learning policy. So substantial relevant managerial experience isn't supervision, it's at least 5 years in a management capacity in an operations or supply chain role. This is a native speakers English must satisfy the university of their competence in the English language, and the details can be found at that link, which will be sent out to you. Everybody happy so far? Any questions? And you're hearing me okay? Okay, we continue on. So our virtual learning environment, as I said, is called Loop. And it's a way of organizing various functions in a coherent manner. DCU Business School, otherwise known as DCUPS, uses the web to distribute learning materials. So case studies, websites, readings are all uploaded onto Loop. It facilitates communication between students and lecturers. So we've got online fora where you can communicate with your fellow students, or you can send a query to the particular lecturer who's teaching any specific module. We ask that you use the fora, because in that way students can benefit from the question. So we're not answering the same question time and time again. Equally, sometimes a student will have an answer to your problem quicker than we might have. So we do encourage you to use the Ask a Question forum on Loop to find out what's going on. Equally, if it's and typically a lecturer will come back to you within 48 hours that you post a question. But one of your students, your fellow students, might be back to you sooner than that. Equally, if the matter is confidential, you can either email me as the program chair or that specific lecturer to find out an answer to your query, or we might just have to point you in the direction of somebody who does know. Increasingly, DCU has a vast online library, and that's available to you. In fact, I should make the point that as a DCU student, you're entitled to use any of the facilities around DCU. So that includes things like clubs and societies, the library, the facilities, reading rooms, group project rooms. Typically, they're available, but may have to be booked. Loop is also used to both present the assignments that you've got to go through in terms of your assessment, and it also gives students feedback and marks for that particular assignment once it's been assessed by the particular marker. The features, it's password protected, it's only accessible to registered students and staff, and there's separate pages for each module. Just while I mention assignments, there are no exams on this on this particular course. All of your assessment is through continual assessment. That takes the form of some group projects that are done over the workshop periods, and also individual assignments that you hand in through loop to that particular lecture. Typically, there's either one or two assessments in the course of the module. What do you get at the end of it? You get to walk across the stage of the helix in your cap and gown, shake hands with the president, and if you've got over 70%, you get a first class honours graduate certificate. The second class grade 1 is 60 to 69%. Second class honours grade 2, 50 to 59. Third class is 40 to 49. And just reaching the pass mark at 40 is a pass degree. And if you don't get it the first time, everybody has a repeat opportunity. The modules that you'll be studying on this particular course. So the first one up is one that I taught last year, and that's Operations and Process Management for Resilience. So really what you're talking about is in the current environment where change is rapid and constant, how do you cope in that environment? How do organizations cope in that environment where there's both risk and uncertainty? And what can we do to mitigate that risk and uncertainty and survive? Business process innovation is Vishwas Duhal presented that course this year, and that's about creatively thinking about how we can solve problems in a way that hasn't been tackled before. What toolkit can we use to think about doing things or addressing problems that probably haven't even arisen before in an environment that's constantly changing? Simulation for decision making. This is presented by Dr. James Byrne, the discipline lead for our particular group. And that's about really looking at different scenarios and planning them out in detail as to how we can address any issue or problems or set of decisions that we've got to make in an operational environment. Semester 2 then after Christmas, sustainable transport and logistics was presented this year by Dr. Melda. And this looks at incorporating sustainability from the cradle to the grave in every aspect of the transportation and distribution of goods and services. Each of these modules is worth 5 credits. Digital supply chain innovation is incorporating the digital technology that we've got at every stage and link in the supply chain. So irrespective of whether we directly own those links in the chain, the impact that they have to our final customer is something that we're responsible for. And we're only as strong as the weakest link in that chain. So how do we manage that? How do we monitor it? How do we ensure that the standard of service that we expect and our customers demand is achieved? And really what we're trying to achieve in that is that not only are we trying to satisfy our customers, but we're trying to make sure that they're delighted and that they come back time and time again. Operations strategy is taking the long view of how an organization goes about its business. And it's about aligning each of the departments within that business so that they're all rowing in the same direction to try and achieve the same purpose or goals. And Dr. Priya presented that this year. One that was a cause of a little bit of controversy this year was our careers transition and success module. And that module is presented um, to sort of give people the opportunity of refreshing both their CV, their LinkedIn profile, and the way they're thinking about progressing their career into the future. That's a year-long module. So that's really what I've got for you. But we are joined by, as I say, some of the people who participated in the course this year. And I'd like to invite Aoife to take the mic, and maybe you can tell us what you thought was the experience of the first cohort going through the Grad Cert.
Okay. Hi everyone. I suppose I didn't get this presentation last year. I applied quite late and went into it maybe a little bit blind. I didn't know what I was going into. Um, my background is finance, but I've always kind of worked business partnering. So I was always involved in operations and supply chain rather than doing the financial accounts of a company. So this to me then seemed like I liked the supply chain end of it. So this seemed like the perfect route into more supply chain operations and getting some, I suppose, getting a course behind me, getting something on my CV that actually said I was qualified in it, and rather than just having kind of the loose experience. And to be fair, it has done that. It was a really interesting course. All of the modules that Colin went through with you there, I think they all complement each other. So when you're doing an assignment in one, you're pulling on information you've learned in the other. So they're not completely isolated, like this is this module. They are all interconnected. And I think the course brings that together very well when they do the group assignments. For part of this course, we were put into groups of 4 or 5, I think 4 or 5. And there was there was three group assignments. Two of them were live presentations at the in-person lectures, and one was over Zoom. But what I liked about those was it was bringing all modules together. So you're working on everything. You're putting the whole course together to make it work in a real life scenario for you. So it's not just um, abstract learnings from a lecture. You're taking that information and you're putting it into a real life scenario, and you're making it work with other people in a group. And even working with those other people in a group was interesting because everybody comes from different backgrounds. So everyone brings something different to the group. Like, for example, the group I was in, one of the guys, he was very much operations from pharma. And another lady in the group was she's involved in consultancy, supply chain consultancy. And then I was coming with a more finance background with logistics. So between us, then you get to understand, I got to understand a little bit more about what they do. They understand more about what I do. So a lot of what I found beneficial wasn't just the course itself, but it was the interacting with all these other people who have different backgrounds, different stories, and different experiences. And I thought that was really good. Um,
How
I
did you
pers
find the on-site workshops in Diffie,
I
Aoife?
was just going to say, actually, I found
Mhm.
those, I really liked them. Sometimes sitting at home listening to lectures it can be a bit tiring. And it is nice to go and see your lecturers in person, see the people in person, and they're just a lot more interactive. Um, Going back and doing something like this as someone who's been working for years, it was very different to being in college as a graduate student. Everybody spoke up, everybody offers their opinions. It was very interactive. It wasn't like going to a lecture, straight out of school and everyone just sits there quietly. It was nice actually. So I like those. I found them quite beneficial. And then when it came to the online lectures, then because of those in-person ones, everyone was just a little bit more open. Um, What
And
else?
the online lectures, did you find them okay, or did you find them isolating, or how did you find them?
Uh, I preferred some more than others, is the honest answer. I found the double lectures quite long. There was a couple of double lectures, and I found by the end of those, uh, it was tough going to stay as focused as you should be for that length of time. Like if there was two lectures and there were two different lectures back to back with two different lecturers, it would be easier. But when you've one person delivering a lecture for 2 hours, I thought that could be a little bit tiring. But because they're all recorded, if you miss something, you can always go back and check it, and all the slides are there as well. I found when I was doing assignments towards the end, I was going back to slides from the lectures to remind myself of things. Everything is there for you to access. Um, because people are working as well, and if you've done a full day's work and you're logging into a lecture for 2 hours in the evening, it can be tricky to stay as focused as you need to be for the full lecture. But to be fair to all the lecturers, everyone really tried to everyone was very understanding of that and tried their best to, give tea breaks, and we would set up into break rooms as well. So there might be like a mini task to do within the lecture. So you're set up into break rooms with a few other students, and that makes it more interactive and kind of makes you focus a little bit more as well. So all those little things that were done were, I thought they were very helpful. I think no matter what you're doing in online lectures, if you have a really long lecture straight after a day of work, you are going to get a bit tired. That's just normal. But I think everybody did whatever they could to try and make them as interactive and as well as good as they possibly could. And overall, I did enjoy them.
And did you think that the assessments were fair?
Yes, I did, and like I said it already. If Melda, for example, was setting an assessment on something, you could pull from what other people, the other lecturers as well, when you're writing your assessments. It wasn't like each module was an island. They were all connected. Everything was connected. So if I was writing an assessment for you or for Melda, I could pull from the other modules and what the other lecturers had done. Um, yeah, I thought the assessments were fair. I was tired of writing them by the end, I won't lie, but
Yeah, it
I
takes a
did
while to
find
get
them
into it as well at the
interesting.
start. Yeah.
I thought they force you to go off and look at the stuff on your own and do a bit of research and really think about what you've learned. And I did one of my assessments, it was supply chain, one of the supply chain ones on Zara. I mean, I spent plenty of money there. So it was interesting to just to look into the background of it and how their supply chain works. And if you pick topics that you have a little bit of knowledge on already, or a business you've a little bit of knowledge on already, then it's much more interesting. You can make all of those assessments work for you by looking at things that interest you. Like if I was going off doing the same assessment on something that I found a bit boring or I wasn't that bothered about, I probably wouldn't have done as well in them as I did because I didn't have the same interest. So I think
But
that's something that,
yeah, you have the bandwidth to make that choice.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm. And did you think that the material was relevant?
Yes, I did for the most part. I bet I did, yeah. I mean, it was interesting. There's a lot of stuff in the course that, well, that I'd never heard of. I mean, when you work in companies that are relatively small and you have been there for quite a while, you know what you know, but you've no idea about what else is out there and, the possibilities and what else is going on in supply chain. You literally know what goes on in your company and that's it. Unless you're coming straight out of college, then you have a bit more of an idea. But I've been working for 20 years and I just know what the two companies I've worked in do, and that's it. So it was
Mm.
very interesting to see what else is out there in terms of technology especially actually, because where I worked would have been relatively small. Um, and it's interesting to see the potential and the possibilities, even if you're never going to use them. I still found it was good to know about them and to learn about them.
Mm. And what were the challenges, Aoife?
Um, the challenges were sitting down to lectures in the evening sometimes when I have kids running around the place wanting this, that, and the other. Um, or just trying to get assignments done. But but that's the challenge for anything. I mean,
Mm,
it's a
mm,
certificate, it's a postgrad certificate. It's not
mm,
supposed to be super easy, otherwise everyone could have one.
mm.
So
Yeah,
there has to
yeah. I
be a bit
mean,
of work.
getting yourself organized is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You need to be organized and not leaving things to the last minute as well would be helpful. Um, you mentioned the careers module. Um, it, I did think it was beneficial. It was. I mean, I think it's good to do a careers module, and especially for people who have been in the workforce for a while and kind of or are trying to make a change. It does make you reflect on what you're doing and what you want and how you're going to get it. So, yeah, I do think that to a certain, it was helpful. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean there were certain difficulties with that as well,
yeah.
and they will be addressed this year. Very diplomatically put, Aoife. What was I going to say? Yeah, no, thanks very much. I don't think Aidan has managed to get free of his work to join us. So I will ask Melda if you'd like to comment on this particular course this year. I know you enjoyed this particular cohort.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely enjoy the EFAS cohort. I think it was the best cohort that I ever taught so far. Yeah, like I think that 2 hours, one of those 2 hours lectures was mine on Tuesday. Like every Tuesday, I appreciate the engagement and the contribution from the cohort because yeah, as Eva said, like they have been working maybe until 5, 6, and sometimes even people join from work, but they still were really engaging. Um, and I really found it difficult to mark students because everyone was so good. Um, and I would say the face-to-face workshop was also really interactive. Um, yeah, I enjoy it as a lecturer. I enjoy it so far.
Hmm. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd just like to throw it open to the to everybody if anybody has a question that they would like to ask. And as I say, if you're not comfortable taking the mic, you can certainly type it in the text box.
Hey, Colin.
Yeah,
Hey, it's nice
yeah,
to see you again. It's been a few years.
sure.
Was in one of your lectures for project management.
Oh, very good.
Um, just a quick one there. The difference between doing the masters directly with DCU and applying through Springboards, is there much of a difference? Except for the price related.
It's really down to the funding. Other than that, it's the same lectures. Slightly different format in that there are more of the course is online. But other than that, it's pretty similar.
All right. That's it really for me then.
Okay,
Thanks.
no bother. I see Aidan has managed to join us. Aidan, are you hearing me okay?
I am indeed, Carl. Absolute apologies. I think that's the nature of being back in employment at the moment.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Calls and calls.
absolutely. So I just Aoife's has shared her experience. I'd just like to ask you before we wrap up what you felt you gained from this particular course and what you would recommend to people who are thinking about whether they should do it or not.
Yeah, well, again, I suppose my background is I've been in various organizations over the last 25 years. My previous academic experience again was maybe in 2000. So I've had a huge kind of gap between kind of, previous academic um, courses and engagement with the protocol of what to expect in a student environment. And what I found from doing this course, whilst I was actually unemployed, it gave me a serious grounding, I suppose, in terms of what I thought I knew from my previous experience and my career experience. I've worked across all spectrums of the supply chain, but what I was kind of missing was a different worldview in terms of a high strategic view of the corporations that I worked in. I didn't get that opportunity in some of them, most particularly in Dell Technologies. I was kind of pinned to a certain position. You stay in a very narrow focus point, and you don't get to really see the company as you would from an external point of view, or taking the opportunity through this course to explore companies and their supply chain. So I gained quite a lot from it. It allowed me to kind of see different components that I couldn't see within my day-to-day roles. Working with ERP systems, you get a very narrow line of sight. So the course gave me great strategic wit. It allowed me to kind of go into different forums, whether that's an individual forum or a group forum. The collaboration on site was also fantastic. And I think the mix of modules itself gave great insights into strategic management, process management, innovation, logistics, and environmental aspects. And so it was a very, very, I had a very, very positive effect on myself. I was very much naturally engaged, passionate, and interested in each module.
Okay, and thanks. It's funny, you don't know what Aoife said before you, but she said exactly the same thing in terms of looking at different perspectives and getting an insight into different aspects of what happens in an organization that you wouldn't normally be quite as aware of. And it also presents you with the realization that there's a whole world out there, that there are different areas that you can go into. And really, that's the question that Katie's asking there in the text box. She's saying that her background is in education, and she's completed a course in cyber risk. But this is a course that is, and the courses that we've done through Springboard and through online learning in the past are very much an opportunity to change careers and see really through the network that you conduct the course with your colleagues, that there are opportunities there, and that you've got transferable skills that actually you may not realize that you have, but as you work in project work and group work with other people, you recognize and gain confidence in your own ability. So yes, Katie, I would say definitely it's worthwhile. Patricia is asking, are there partnerships with big well, Amazon, we had funny enough, we had a panel discussion, a networking workshop on one of the occasions up in Drogheda, and one of the participants was from Amazon, and we also had a lecture from the leadership trainer in Dell, Mark, who kind of talked about resilience and the way that Dell tackled that. So yeah, there are when you say could you ask for projects, I think Aoife explained that you've got the bandwidth to tackle different areas that you're interested in. People go and do lots of different things. So Aidan started working for BWG. There are other people who have, in fact, it's an extraordinary the number of people who have either changed jobs or have been promoted within the this particular cohort. In terms of internships, people rarely look for an internship from here, but it is something that we can organize at the end of the course if it's something that you are interested in. What companies attend networking? It's really a question of who we can get, but there's a relationship between Diffie and the Chamber of Commerce in Drogheda. Also that we have links with a whole plethora of companies from Dublin Bus to Dell Communications. We had uh, um, Epicom. We had an engineering firm from Dundalk. So right across the board, different types. Tools that are used in the course. Yeah, commonly used tools, lots of different. Uh, uh, James would be a more of an expert on the tools than I am, but we're constantly upgrading to the latest tools and very interested in keeping at the cutting edge of any tools that are available. Sustainability, yeah, lots and lots of measures and metrics that are being used. So specific overruling legislation from Ireland. Yeah, each of the lectures would incorporate the legislation that's relevant and the sustainability goals and the way that we go about measuring them, particularly in an SME environment. Lots of questions there. So, Patricia, I hope that will answer most of them. Has anybody else got any questions that they'd like to take the mic and ask, either to myself, to Melda, or to our two students who have just come through the experience?
Colin, if I could just add, in terms of some of the companies, just to let the students know, I'm actually a consultant at the moment. So even as a career change, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, from kind of being your PAYE companies like Ingersoll Rand, Diageo, Accenture, I got a fair idea of kind of, European service centers, kind of transactional, operational, service driven kind of environments. But when you kind of move into different organizations, and you can start seeing some of the strategy aspects, some of the tactical setups, and why somebody might set up in some place in Europe or Asia across the supply chain. And likewise, then with Dell and various other companies, I got the opportunity to look at kind of source to pay from a supply chain point of view, and order to cash in terms of when funds and sales would generate revenue. So the exposure to different systems like SAP or Oracle, all this kind of stuff, again, it kind of pigeonholes your mind into project management, business transformation. But the course itself allowed me kind of to just see things differently, again, without the stress of project delivery or operational tasks or any kind of shared service or managed service relationship that I would have to kind of consult on before or work on before. I think looking at the course modules that really covered length and breadth of an organization, it was brilliant to see how you could apply that back to your career. And also then, even for the company that I'm working with now and consulting with now, BWG, it allows me to kind of see them in a different frame as well, knowing what we've gone through during the course.
Thanks, Aidan. Okay, I know that some people are on their lunch break, so they'll want to get away again. I'd like to thank everybody for attending, for our two students, for agreeing to share their experiences. I wish you well in your applications. If you have any queries that you want to ask me directly, my email is colum.foley@dcu.ie. Anybody who wishes to hang on and ask a few questions afterwards, you're welcome to do so. I'll stay around for another little while. Otherwise, thanks very much for attending today, and I hope I see you online in September or up in Drogheda.